The air in the Sepang pit lane was thick, not just with the brutal Malaysian humidity, but with a tension that hadn't been felt in the Yamaha garage for over a decade. For years, the Iwata factory had been the last bastion of the inline-4 engine, a philosophy of smoothness and flow that had carried legends like Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo to glory. But in a world now dominated by the brutal power of Ducati's V4, Yamaha's smoothness had become its weakness. Then the garage doors slid open. A bike rolled out that sounded fundamentally different, a deeper, more predatory growl, and the man sitting on it wasn't a MotoGP veteran. It was the king of late braking, the three-time world superbike champion Toprak Razgatlıoğlu. No one inside the paddock expected what would unfold next, and it would change everything for him, his team, and the entire championship narrative. Behind the closed doors of Yamaha's racing headquarters, a silent civil war had been brewing for months. The Japanese engineers, traditionalists to their core, had long resisted the shift to a V4 configuration. They viewed the inline-4 as Yamaha's soul. But the results on track told a darker story. Fabio Quartararo was being slaughtered on the straights, and the gap to the top was widening into a canyon. Under the leadership of technical director Max Bartolini, poached from Ducati to save the brand, Yamaha finally committed the ultimate heresy. They built a V4. This wasn't just a new engine, it was a total reimagining of how a Yamaha should move. It was narrower, more aggressive, and designed to thrive in the modern era of aerodynamics. But there was a problem. A V4 requires a rider who can handle violence, someone who doesn't just flow through a corner, but someone who can wrestle a bike into submission. Yamaha knew they had the bike, they just didn't know if they had the man to tame it. But behind that calm expression Toprak wore as he suited up, pressure was building fast. Just 2 years ago, Toprak's first reward test on the MotoGP M1 had been a political disaster. Whispers from the garage suggested that Yamaha management wasn't impressed. They claimed his stoppy style was too erratic for the refined inline-4. He left that test feeling disrespected, eventually walking away from Yamaha to conquer the world with BMW in superbikes. Yet here he was, back in the blue of Yamaha, but this time the power dynamic had shifted. Yamaha wasn't doing him a favor anymore, they needed him. As Toprak clicked the V4 into first gear, the paddock held its breath. The critics had spent months arguing that a WSBK rider, no matter how talented, could never adapt to the alien tech of a MotoGP prototype. But from the very first lap at Sepang, Toprak didn't just ride the bike, he attacked it. Inside the garage, whispers began spreading as the telemetry data started to flicker across the screens. The engineers stared in disbelief. Toprak wasn't using the smooth lines Yamaha had spent 20 years perfecting. He was doing the impossible. He was bringing his world-famous late-braking aggression to a MotoGP machine. The V4's more compact power delivery and increased stability under deceleration allowed Toprak to do what he does best: stand the bike on its nose. In the heavy braking zones of turns 1 and 4, the rear wheel of the M1 was consistently inches off the ground. He was braking later than the factory regulars, turning the bike with a ferocity that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Data showed his braking distances were shorter than almost anyone on the grid, yet the bike remained planted. It was a symbiotic relationship. The V4 gave Toprak the platform he needed, and Toprak gave the V4 the violence it was designed for. But what the paddock discovered next shocked everyone. Yet the real turning point happened away from the cameras, in the corner of the garage where Fabio Quartararo stood. The 2021 world champion was seen repeatedly checking the timing monitor, his face a mask of shock and awe. For years, Fabio had been the lone warrior carrying Yamaha on his back, begging for more power, for more stability, for something to fight the Ducatis. Watching Toprak, a rookie to this machine, set consistent, blistering lap times was a double-edged sword for the Frenchman. On one hand, it proved the V4 project was a success. On the other, it signaled a shift in the hierarchy. If Toprak could jump on this bike and immediately extract its potential, what did that mean for the established order? The air between the two sides of the garage grew cold. This wasn't just a test session, it was an audition for the future of the brand. And from that moment, nothing would ever be the same. According to insiders, it wasn't just the lap times that left the Japanese technicians speechless, it was the feedback. Usually, riders coming from superbikes struggle to communicate the complexities of MotoGP electronics and Michelin tire degradation. But Toprak was providing gold. He spoke in granular detail about the engine braking strategy into fast corners and the throttle response as the V4 exited slow hairpins. He wasn't just riding, he was developing. He pointed out a specific instability in the aero package that the regular test riders had missed for weeks. The atmosphere in the Yamaha garage changed dramatically. The initial skepticism was replaced by a renewed sense of optimism. Several team members privately admitted that Toprak's performance had exceeded even their most insane expectations. He wasn't just a guest, he had become a central figure in Yamaha's revival project. Word of Toprak's performance at Aragon and Sepang quickly spread throughout the paddock like a wildfire. Rival teams, Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia, began to take a more cautious look at the timing screens. They had spent years dismissing Yamaha as a straight-line victim. But a V4 Yamaha ridden by a man who can break deeper than anyone else on Earth, that was a terrifying prospect. Some mechanics in rival garages claimed something felt off about the ease with which Toprak adapted. Rumors suggested deeper tension behind closed doors at Pramac and the factory squad. The message was clear. The Turkish Lightning was no longer a curiosity, he was a threat. If this development trajectory continued, the dominance of the European manufacturers was under serious fire. However, the twist that followed would change the championship narrative entirely. As the sun set over the final day of testing, the shakedown felt like more than just a session. It was a declaration of war. Yamaha had successfully bridged the gap between their legendary past and a high-tech V4 future, and in Toprak Razgatlıoğlu they had found the alien they had been missing. The 2026 season looms, and for the first time in years, the Japanese giant has a glimmer of hope. Toprak has already confirmed his move to MotoGP with Pramac Yamaha, and he isn't coming to just participate. He has set his sights on the throne currently occupied by the likes of Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez. But as the bikes are packed into their crates, one question lingers in the humid air of Sepang. Can Toprak maintain this insane pace when 22 of the world's fastest riders are hunting him down? What happened in these tests left even his closest team members stunned. But the real storm is only just beginning.